So I wanted to react to this Jeff Bezos news of him hiring an investment firm to evaluate a potential bid on the Washington Commanders and kind of speculate, what does it mean for the Commanders? What does it mean when it relates to their new stadium, which has been rumored they want a new stadium by 2027. The lease is up at their current home in 2026, and we know their current stadium is one of the worst in the NFL. And also talk about how Jeff Bezos would be as an owner. Apparently, a lot of people in the NFL want Bezos owning a team. He's very powerful with Amazon, one of, if not the richest man in the world. It kind of changes every other day. Of course, we know a lot of people in the Middle East actually have more money, but it is not public. So let's get into this. It says Bezos is working with Allen and Company, a New York-based firm that is prominent in transactions involving professional sports franchises, according to those people. The firm that he hired handled the two most recent sales of NFL franchises, those involving both Carolina and Denver, the Panthers being sold in 2018, and then the Broncos got sold last year for $4.5 billion. So it sounds like he's hiring the right people if he actually wants to make a bid on the Commanders, something he has yet to do. Now, as it relates to the stadium, nothing can move forward until the Commanders actually have a new owner. And you can see it says Virginia still has eyes on the Washington Commanders. The three main places for their new stadium, at least right now in the running, looks like Maryland, Virginia, and then D.C. This article released about a few weeks ago, February 6, 2023. The effort to lure the Washington Commanders to Virginia is still on. The Commanders have a contract to continue playing in their home at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland until the end of the 2026 season. So that kind of sets up the timeline that the new stadium would be in place by 2027, and you would have to get a new owner relatively soon, really work up a plan, come up with actual finalized renderings, release it to the general public, and then possibly break ground next year. That's kind of the timeline I'm thinking about when it comes to the Washington Commanders' big project, their next stadium, and we've seen renderings from them. And again, guys, all of these modern stadiums, they're all the same. They're all fixed. They're all closed because they want the ability to host a Super Bowl. And they're all also like a community area. Like you look at what the Bears want to do with Arlington Heights. You look at what happened in with SoFi. It's always a community area. It's not just the stadium. It's the surrounding area that they really want to build up. I also know the Cleveland Browns are thinking about building up the Lakeshore right next to their current stadium. So that is the latest. It looks like Virginia still wants the Commanders. Commanders' $3 billion plan includes a color-changing stadium. And it just goes over some of the features of one of the renderings we saw on a potential Commanders stadium. The stadium's exterior would be able to change colors, according to the Richmond Times. A translucent roof, which is another huge trend that would allow for both natural light and climate control, and an eco-friendly heavy timber construction process. And there it is at the bottom. You can see the Commanders are drawing up plans for a mini city, which would include restaurants, bars, theaters, office space, a convention center, things like that. Now, that rendering to me looks like the Superdome, and that's something that, I think that was probably a far away rendering because it doesn't include natural life. That's just a dome, and I highly doubt we'll see something like the Superdome be ever built again. That's probably more what you're looking at. If they actually do go with a color-changing roof, that's a very unique thing when it comes to the overall stadium, so I would heavily endorse something like that. There's also weird images of like people ice skating right next to it. I don't even know what that is. I mean, what is there going to be, an ice rink? It's just odd. I don't know. But then we take a look at their president, who comes out and says when it comes to the timeline of the Commanders Stadium, they still want the new stadium in place by 2027. That was August 15 of 2022, so that was about 6-7 months ago, their team president coming out and said, I think we'll still be able to hit our timeline. It's going to take hard work, and we definitely have to be at a full sprint pace, but we'll get there. And again, guys, when you look at other projects happening right now within the NFL, you have the Bills breaking ground very, very soon within the next few months. Same thing with the Titans, and their new stadiums are going up a year earlier in 2026. So the Commanders could very easily do this and theoretically get the sale of the team possibly to, whoever buys it, whether it's Bezos or someone else. Get renderings, get everything in place, find out where it's going to be, release the renderings, and break ground by next offseason, which would make it so the Commanders will have a new stadium starting in the 2027 season overall. Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia stand as 3 potential landing spots for the Commanders' new stadium. Maryland lawmakers have agreed to a $400 billion subsidy for developing the neighborhoods around FedEx Field site, but that does not provide any money to the team to build a new stadium. So that is the current situation. The Commanders, in desperate need. I think most people would agree they currently have the worst stadium situation at FedEx Field in the NFL. I mean, what they've done to that stadium, they've taken out a bunch of seats in the upper deck. It just looks terrible. I understand why they've done it, because no one was going to the games and empty seats look bad, but they've actually somehow made it look worse than empty seats to where the entire upper deck looks like it's been eaten by foam. It's just, I can't even explain what they've done to it. I mean, it's already a bland enough stadium as it is, and it's not even renovations. They're just taking out seating, and that's going to make it look even worse. MLB stadiums have done it too, where it always looks worse when you take out seats, especially a significant amount of seats in the upper deck. So they also want to build a big practice facility and everything like that. That was in all the renderings, a high emphasis on a new practice facility. So we will see what ends up happening when it comes to this project. I think, the next big thing, when you look at the overall polls and the data, I was looking at a few different Commanders sites. Seems like they really want Bezos to be the owner over other people. I saw one site that had him, it was like a Washington Commanders fan page. He got 73%. And then you take a look at this Twitter poll with him against Josh Harris, who is the other main contender for possibly buying the team. And I think Josh Harris owns 2 other professional teams, an NHL team and someone else. He is at 18% versus Bezos at 82%. So seems like this possibly could happen with Bezos hiring a firm that has facilitated the last 2 NFL sales within the last 4 years, both the Panthers and the Denver Broncos. We will see, though. And then this is from about 10 months ago. Commanders spend $100 million buying land in Virginia, 200 acres of land in Prince William County, paying a little over $100 million for the area. So that could be a potential destination, although it looks like they're keeping their options open, because Maryland did say they would spend upwards of $500 million to develop the area around FedEx, if they wanted to stay local when it comes to where they will be playing. But the speculation on the new stadium, it's going to have a roof. The renderings that we see, really, when it comes to new stadiums, it's not a question of is it open or closed. It's a question of is it going to be just a fixed closed roof versus a retractable? This one looks like it's fixed. The last 4 NFL stadiums that have been built, 3 of them have been fixed, and then 1 of them's been retractable. So that is definitely the trend, and it's because it just makes more sense in terms of hosting events nowadays. You want to host the Final Four, you want to host the Super Bowl, you want to build up the area surrounding it, you want the casual fan experience to be better, because now you're competing with so many different things. Fans can stay home in the comfort of their own, 75 degree, or that's actually a little warm for a house. I would say, guys, what's the ideal temperature for a home? I'd say 67 degrees, maybe 68. Maybe it's a little cold, I don't know. But that's where I would like it. And, people can stay home. They don't want to go to a game in Virginia in December when it's 37 degrees. If it's climate controlled, it's a lot more of an easier option, especially for casual fans that just don't want to sit in the cold. So that's something that's a league-wide thing. We're seeing it with MLB as well. Everything's becoming climate controlled. Everything's got a roof on it, and they're doing it to where you can still see the outside. It's like a see-through roof, and it lets natural light in. It's what the Vikings did. It's what Vegas did. It's what SoFi did. Everyone's doing it, and I would expect that to be the design when it comes to the Commanders. And they could be the next new team to officially announce a stadium if this selling process gets complete relatively soon. This has been a process that's been going on for a few months now, I believe. Longer than that when it comes to Snyder, because I know they've wanted him out as an owner for a while. But guys, that is the latest update on the Washington Commanders stadium situation. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.